That night, the rain drew silver lines across the window, and the city felt like it was breathing in slow motion. I remember the sound first, the soft thrum of distant traffic, the whisper of water trickling from gutters, the quiet that follows when a heart realizes it's about to admit something it's been denying for years. I told myself for so long that we were over. That life had moved forward, that seasons had turned and taken us with them. But that night, when the streetlight flickered and I paused mid-step, it was as if Istanbul herself was holding her breath with me. And I knew, no, I felt, it wasn't finished. You can say time heals. People do. They love the neatness of it. But time doesn't heal what you refuse to name. It simply layers dust over what still glows underneath. And when something is still burning, the wind of a single memory is enough to set it blazing again. I wasn't looking for him, I swear I wasn't. I was trying to escape a room that had become too full of air, heavy with unasked questions. I told a friend I needed a walk. I didn't tell her I was walking toward a street I had promised myself to avoid. And then the city conspired. The rain softened, the traffic fell into a hush, and every storefront I passed reflected a different version of the me I had become, someone who pretends to be fine. I turned a corner I knew too well. The pavement there always holds the rain a little longer, collecting puddles that mirror the sky. I stood at the curb and tried to convince myself to keep going. But you know the cruel kindness of memory, it never asks permission. It simply unwraps what you packed away. A laugh. A look. A night on a balcony when the air was warm and promises were warmer. I didn't see him, yet. I felt him. Or maybe I felt the part of me that still knew him. It's strange how the heart recognizes a presence before the eyes do. The breath goes tight in your chest, and you think, don't do this to me. Don't do this now. And then the light in the window 2 floors above me flared, softened, and stayed. Like someone had walked in, paused, and decided to stay a little longer. The rain slowed into a hush. I closed my eyes and finally told the truth I'd refused to say out loud: we were not over. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That was the first admission. The second was harder. I wanted to go. I wanted to turn my face to that light and let it see me, all the hurt, all the tenderness, the apology I hadn't spoken and the forgiveness I hadn't earned. And as the night gathered around me, I took a step forward. People think love happens in grand gestures. Sometimes it does. But ours was built in the in-betweens, in the pauses between lines, in exhausted smiles after long days, in cups of coffee left just the way the other likes, no questions asked. We met in a season that demanded too much, and somehow we gave each other more. More patience, more faith, more room to breathe. The cameras, the noise, the headlines, they were always the loudest voices in the room. But real love speaks in whispers. We learned to hear each other in the quiet. Success can be a blessing that comes with a price tag you don't see until you're paying it. Schedules turned into walls, plans became promises we couldn't keep. And then come the small betrayals, the texts unanswered not because you don't care but because you can't breathe, the late arrivals that mean nothing and start to mean everything. We tried to be reasonable grown-ups about it, 2 professionals navigating a life that demands performance even when your heart wants to hide. But the truth is that hearts are unreasonable. They demand closeness. They crave being chosen when choosing is inconvenient. We didn't fall apart in a single night. We frayed. We tugged at the same thread without noticing, and one morning we woke up wrapped in loose ends. Pride is so quiet when it slips in, it lets you believe you're right, that protecting yourself is the same as protecting the love. We started saving words for later. We postponed tenderness. We shelved the conversations that terrified us, telling ourselves we'd talk after the next project, the next city, the next milestone. Later never arrived. When it ended, if ended is even the right word, it wasn't with a door slamming. It was with a door left slightly open, both of us pretending we didn't notice the draft. He turned away first, or maybe I did. I told the story 100 times, changing small details like rearranging furniture in a room you no longer live in. Each time, I tried to make it tidy, to justify the choice, to make it sound like we were brave. But bravery is telling the truth. And I hadn't told it yet. That's why that night mattered. Not because I needed a miracle, but because I needed a mirror. I needed to look at the part of me that still trembled when I imagined his laugh in an empty stairwell. I needed to admit that the thing between us had been truer than my stubbornness. And as I stood on that rain-dark street, I finally stopped arguing with the past. I let it stand beside me and whisper what I'd tried not to hear: you loved him. You still do. The window on the second floor glowed a low, steady amber. Not the harsh white of a hallway light or the blue flicker of a television. This was softer, closer, like the light of a lamp someone turns on for company. The kind of light that says, stay. I hated that I recognized it. I hated that it recognized me. I stepped closer, feeling ridiculous, feeling 16, feeling every year I had carried since. My phone buzzed, a message from a friend asking if I was okay. I typed, "I'm just walking," and didn't hit send. I slipped the phone back in my coat and listened. The city will tell you things if you let it. Somewhere a taxi door thudded shut. Somewhere a cat knocked a bottle over and it rolled with a hollow clink. Between those sounds lived a silence that felt like a held breath. His breath? Mine? Both? Then, a shadow moved across the room beyond that window. A shoulder, a profile, the curve of a hand lifted to the forehead. It wasn't a clear view, just a suggestion. But we know the outlines of the people we've loved, we can read them like maps. My heart did the ancient thing it does when it recognizes home and danger at once. It sprinted and froze, all at the same time. I told myself I would take 3 steps, then stop. I took 5. Memories opened like umbrellas. The night he waited for me in a lobby filled with flowers, pretending he was annoyed at the delay because the truth, that he'd do anything to see me, made him shy. The morning he made coffee and apologized for something he hadn't done, just to make the air easier to breathe. The time we promised to say things before they hardened into silence. We kept that promise, until we didn't. I don't know if he saw me first or if I made a sound, a shoe scraping, a breath caught. But the light shifted just slightly, and the shadow stilled. The kind of stillness that says, I've heard you. The kind that says, don't run. I wasn't sure if I was brave enough to be seen, not like this, not rain-mussed and unarmored. But the night had taken so much already, I decided that if it asked for courage, I would give it. I lifted my gaze and held it there. I didn't wave. I didn't call his name. There are moments when language is too small, when words would only make a sacred thing clumsy. The window framed a room I knew too well, and in that room a man I had never stopped knowing. We stood with glass and rain between us, and something passed back and forth through it: recognition, apology, a question neither of us dared ask. I let the silence speak for me. I'm here. Are you? I crossed the street the way you cross into a memory, careful, not trusting your feet, hoping the ground will forgive your hesitation. The rain was lighter now, more a mist than a fall, and it settled on my hair, on my eyelashes, making the world blur at the edges. I stopped beneath the awning. The building's buzzer panel was a set of old, tarnished buttons with names I didn't recognize and one I knew too well, even if the letters had faded. I didn't press it. Not yet. He could have turned away. He could have pulled the curtain and let me live with the mercy of doubt. Instead, the shadow stayed, a silhouette outlined by the lamp. I felt his uncertainty as clearly as my own. There's a particular ache to the almost, 2 hands hovering an inch apart, the last step not taken, the word nearly spoken. We had lived in that almost for too long. My fingers hovered over the buzzer, and in that breath, everything complicated and simple about us arrived at once. We were 2 people with careers that never stopped asking, with promises made in good faith and broken in fatigue, with families who wanted us to be happy and didn't know how to help. And we were also 2 people who had loved each other without witnesses, in quiet rooms and running cars and late-night kitchens. Both truths were real. Both were heavy. I pressed my palm flat against the cool glass of the entry door, as if I could feel his pulse through it. A sound from inside, a chair leg moving, a step. Then the lock clicked. Not the door, just the tiny electrical sound the buzzer makes when someone touches it from the other side. It might have been an accident. It might have been nothing. But it felt like a yes, small and trembling. I didn't push. I couldn't. The last time I rushed a moment, I watched it break in my hands. So I waited, counting to 8, to 13, to 20. When the door finally opened, it wasn't dramatic. No sweeping gesture, no soundtrack. Just a door opening into a hallway that smelled faintly of wool and citrus, and a man standing there looking like he hadn't slept and like he'd been waiting to. Our eyes found each other with the ease of habit. "Hi," I said, and the word felt like a confession. He didn't answer right away. His mouth trembled the way it does when he's trying not to say too much. Then his smile arrived the way it used to, unsure, sincere, a little crooked. "You're here," he said softly. Not a question. A truth. I could have said 1,000 things. I chose the smallest and the truest. "I'm here." We sat on opposite ends of the same couch like two travelers arriving in a country where they once spoke the language fluently. The lamp hummed. The rain gave the windows a heartbeat. He set a mug in front of me, not coffee, just warm water with a slice of lemon, the exact thing he used to make when I was too tired to make requests. My fingers wrapped around it as if warmth could teach me courage. "I don't know where to start," he said. I almost laughed. It was our old dance. I always wanted the first word to be perfect. He always wanted the last word to be kind. "Maybe we don't," I answered. "Maybe we just tell the small truths until they add up." So we did. Fragment by fragment, we laid out the pieces that had gone missing. I told him about the nights I fell asleep trying not to check my phone, because it made me feel weak. He told me about mornings when he wrote a message and deleted it because it felt like asking for something he hadn't earned. I admitted I had been angry at the world and then at him and then at myself, in that order and sometimes all at once. He admitted that he had been afraid of failing, of succeeding, of being loved in a way that required him to stop running. None of it was dramatic. It was a slow undoing of the knots we had tied. Every sentence was a key turning softly in an old lock. At some point my eyes blurred, and I didn't bother to hide it. He reached for a tissue, then laughed awkwardly, then didn't apologize for the laughter. It felt human. It felt like before. "You were always the home in the middle of the noise," he said, almost to himself. I closed my eyes because the sentence was too gentle to look at directly. The thing about truth is that once you let it in, it reorders the room. It asks you to move the furniture around, to make space for the pieces you kept pretending didn't exist. Sitting there, with lemon steam rising between us, I finally said the words I'd rehearsed in every language my heart knows. That night, I realized we were not over yet. Silence. The kind that holds you instead of judging you. He didn't jump in, didn't rush to match it. He let it be sacred. Then he nodded, a small, careful movement, like acknowledging a fragile life. "Me too," he said. And it wasn't an agreement, it was an admission. In that moment, whatever we had been pretending to be, exes, strangers, stubborn, fell away. We were simply two people telling the truth in a room that had waited for it. By the time the rain finally stopped, the world outside had that rinsed clean smell that makes you believe in second chances. We didn't rush to define anything. We didn't open calendars or draft plans or promise more than we could give. But we did the braver thing, we chose gentleness. He walked me to the door not like he was letting me go, but like he was escorting something precious to a safe place. "Whatever this is," I said, "can we let it be true before we make it perfect?" He smiled, and there was relief in it. "Perfect always scared me," he answered. "True doesn't." We stood there a moment longer, half in the hallway, half in a future we hadn't named. I remembered all the times we had said goodbye in a hurry, with eyes on the clock, like love was something that could be scheduled between obligations. This time I wanted to honor the moment, to honor the distance we had traveled to get back to the same door. I reached out, just fingertips, and he met them, just as lightly. It was nothing and it was everything. It was a promise that didn't need a speech. I left with the softness of his goodnight still in my chest. The city had gone quiet, the kind of quiet that happens when even the streets have fallen asleep. I walked the long way home on purpose. Every puddle at my feet held a small moon. Every step felt like crossing back into my life with something I thought I had lost, a gentler version of myself, one who believes love is allowed to be brave and careful at once. I didn't text anyone. I didn't post anything. I let the night be mine. The next morning, the headlines would keep spinning and the cameras would want their angles, and life would demand its price, like it always does. But I had something stronger than noise, truth. And truth doesn't shout. It steadies. It stays. It waits at the same window with the same lamp, patient as a heartbeat. We were not over yet. We might still not be. And if there is a road back, it begins here, not with fireworks, but with a door opening softly, with lemon steam in the air, with the simplest word we had both been too proud to say, still. Sometimes the night doesn't give you answers, it gives you honesty. That night, I didn't ask for a promise. I asked for truth, and the truth answered, we were not over yet. Maybe love isn't about winning or losing, leaving or returning. Maybe it's about learning how to stay, really stay, when staying requires courage. If there's a next chapter, it will be written in small sentences and steady choices. And when the window light glows again, I'll know what it means. Not drama. Not destiny. Something rarer. Something ours.